While investigating the Zeta 2 Reticuli system, looking for any signs of wreckage from the USCSS Nostromo, the Gamma probe dispatched by Alien vs Predator Galaxy headquarters picked up a signal of unknown origin. While not a repeating acoustical beacon of extraterrestrial origin, the signal contains something equally as impressive: two early drafts of Alien Romulus' script. The first, while undated, was titled Alien Renaissance, and is what we believe to be, if not the first draft of the film, but one of the absolutely earliest drafts of the film. The second is simply titled Alien and labelled Blue Revision with the date of 18th of October 2022. Any regular visitors to AVP Galaxy will know I'm a huge fan of exploring how the films evolve and delving into the differences between those earlier iterations of the script and the finished product. So, let's dive in. Welcome to another installation of From Script to Screen. Thanks to some early casting rumours, it's not much of a secret that the character of Rook was originally conceived of as a female model android. When Alien vs Predator Galaxy had the pleasure of interviewing writer and director Fede Alvarez, he was unaware of Phoebe Waller-Bridger being in contention for the role, but he confirmed that the synth was originally absolutely a female. This is the case in both the Alien Renaissance and Blue Revision drafts of Alien Romulus that our Gamma probe provided. She is described as red-haired and motherly in both drafts. In the earliest draft, and in storyboards by Santiago Vecino, Rook's remains are found outside the laboratory. In the Blue Revision, they are moved inside the lab, as they would be in the finished film. Rook's role in the story remains largely the same throughout both drafts, with much of the dialogue the same. There's a minor exchange between Rain and Rook in the finished film towards the end of the hive scene that is not present in either draft. However, because the presence of a Hyperdyne Systems 120A2 with Ian Holmes' likeness is not being saved as a big reveal until later on in the film, both drafts contain moments with Rook in an undamaged state in the opening scenes. Following the retrieval of the Xenomorph from the wreckage of the Nostromo, as the cocoon is being drilled into, a scientist queries Rook about where the alien was retrieved and the composition of its cocoon. Interior: unknown docking bay. Loud and intermittent klaxons sound. The asteroid has been lowered by powerful chains into a laser cutting chamber. A group of scientists in whiter hazmat suits observe it. On their backs, a company logo: Wayland Yutani. Male voice: pickup point? A name tag reads: Science Officer Rook. Rook. 24E, 23B. Still Z2 Ret. It's 23.5% mineral ore. Male voice: matches the Tesotex cargo. Rook. Correct. The next significant difference between the scripts and the finished film is Isabella Merced's character Kay. She doesn't exist in the Alien Renaissance draft. Instead, it is a character known as Kumiko. Instead of Tyler's sister, Kumiko is Tyler's current girlfriend who is pregnant with his child. Unlike with Kay, Rain has no prior relationship with Kumiko, and the two had never even met each other. Kumiko's role in the rest of the script is essentially the same as Kay's in the finished film. However, the earlier draft instead focuses a little more on Rain and Tyler's previous relationship. We find out that Tyler never told Rain why he broke up with her, for him to later reveal that, "I knew my dad was never going to let me leave Jackson, and I didn't want to be another reason for you to stay, so I made the tough call for both of us." To which Rain reacts with the cold doubt that you'd expect from her significant other making those choices for her. This exchange also makes it into the Blue Revision, but is entirely absent from the finished film. Following Kumiko's apparent death at the hands of the Scorched Xenomorph, the pair also kiss while Tyler is demonstrating the F-44AA to Rain. "I'm sorry I fucked everything up. I thought I was being tough. I was just being selfish." Rain acknowledges this without forgiving him. The rest of this draft plays out largely the same as the finished film, with no further talk about their relationship. And later, instead of stepping in front of the alien's tail for Rain, Tyler is abducted while in the hive. In the Blue Revision, There's a little exchange between Kay and Rain after the latter tucks the ill Kay into bed, in which Kay calls her brother an idiot, and both characters express confusion over why Tyler broke up with Rain. With Kumiko's pregnancy, the incestuous angle of the small colony Jackson star is instead shifted towards Bjorn and Navarro. It's never taken quite as seriously as resulting in pregnancy, but the pair are explicitly described as half-siblings, allegedly. After Rain and Kumiko comment on their closeness, the two are often seen being overly affectionate towards each other, kissing on the lips or touching each other inappropriately. There are further little moments like Navarro commenting on how attractive she finds Bjorn. She elicits some strange looks when she tells her alleged half-brother to take care of that hot body, responding defensively, "What? He has a hot body." The moment between Bjorn and Kay in the film that insinuates the romantic moment between the two of them is not present in the Blue Revision. When Alien vs Predator Galaxy had the pleasure of chatting to Alien Romulus writer and director Fede Alvarez, he told us that he discussed the characters' relationship with the actors, but the moment between the two to insinuate their romantic connection was something that Isabel Merced and Spike Fern ad-libbed on the day. The most interesting difference with the xenomorphs in Alien Romulus comes from the early Alien Renaissance draft. In both the Blue Revision and the final film, we discover that the scientists on board the Renaissance station had been biologically 3D printing facehuggers that are then kept frozen within a device known as a cryoframe. In the Alien Renaissance draft, Andy, Bjorn and Tyler discover that the cryolab is instead printing xenomorph eggs. The script describes them as translucent amber-coloured eggs. This earlier incarnation in the script sees the cryolab in a more frozen state, with more machinery and bioengineered eggs being revealed as the frost melts, revealing a total of 41 amber overmorphs. The facehuggers are subsequently born from the eggs in a very disorientated and groggy state, and the scene proceeds to play out in much the same way as in the finished film. Similarly to the final film, more of these organically printed eggs, empty, are later discovered in the xenomorph hive in place of the broken cryoframes. Under the torch's high beam, we see a rotting amber sack, like the ones that contained the facehuggers in the freezers. Rain lights her torch too, illuminating a dozen more of these horrifying amber sacks. Andy, this batch was probably on its way from Remus when the xenomorph attacked. Rain, they never made it to the freezer. Tyler, and hatched here. Though the idea of the amber eggs was seemingly dropped early on, the concept was explored by various artists, including Rostislav Zagornov and the ever-talented and fantastic Dane Hallett. Hallett's explorations included designs that looked quite literally like amber, a more overtly artificial egg-shaped container that was amber-coloured, and some that lent into the concept of 3D printing with support structures and print lines. Speaking of his designs, Hallett elaborated that, "I wasn't quite sure how refined or potentially mutated they might have looked, so I explored a range." While not specifically amber in colour due to the artwork being black and white, Rostislav Zagornov shared a piece of concept art that depicted a much larger bioprinting lab where large machines oversaw the development of numerous xenomorph eggs. A remnant of this concept would still make its way into the finished film, where, as Andy is looking around the cryolab, the camera lingers on an incomplete printing of a facehugger and we found it encased in an amber substance. The scenes with the surprise reveal of the Offspring play out slightly different in both drafts when compared to the finished film, but it's largely the same concept, where Rain lures the creature into the cargo bed and ejects it out into space in true alien tradition. However, there are some interesting details in the script that I did want to bring attention to. In both drafts, when the Offspring is first introduced, it is described as being younger, explicitly stated to be teenage-like in age, and similar to the engineers in appearance. Slowly stepping into the light, on all fours, her offspring. At first glance it looks like a pale, muscular, but extremely lean, androgynous teenager, but as it comes into the light, we realise this could be a crossbreed between Kay and one of the engineers from Prometheus. A better human, a demigod. The creature stares at its mother with black eyes, peeking through its long dark hair. It sniffs Attracted to her smell, Kay is too scared to scream. The hungry offspring slowly approaches her, head down, almost in a non-threatening way. Now, just a couple of feet away, the creature opens its mouth, revealing a second smaller but toothless human mouth inside it. During the production of Alien Romulus, a number of concept artists explored the offspring's younger looking appearance, including Dan Baker, Dane Hallett, Santiago Vicino, and Thomas Ducrest. Speaking on his own work of this iteration of the Offspring, Thomas Ducrest explained that the brief for this one was to make it look like an awkward teenager, so you could feel pity for him before his true, dangerous nature was revealed. While the finished film demonstrated the rapid growth of the Offspring, both drafts also feature the Offspring losing limbs when the cryo-fuel floods the Corbellon during the fight with Rain. The gas bursting from the spinning cryo-tank hits the creature's foot, sticking it to the floor. It falls forward and tries to catch itself, but now its right hand gets stuck on the floor as well. Right when the Offspring breaks its own frozen wrist and acid bursts from the wound, its severed limbs have already started to grow back. Rain's hand is likewise injured during this scene, when the Offspring slashes at her when she's shooting the cryo gun. This scene was filmed and cut around in the finished film, but you can see remnants of this in the way Rain holds her hand throughout the climax of the film. While we've also heard of reports from test screenings and earlier iterations of the film, and seen various pieces of concept art depicting the Offspring mutating into an actual alien itself, this is not something present in either draft, and was an idea that was explored in the post-production process of the film, but ultimately, and thankfully, dropped. Before we jump into the last significant difference between these drafts and the finished film, I just wanted to point out some smaller differences that I thought were interesting or would have been a treat to see on the big screen. In the Alien Renaissance draft, after Tyler restores power to the station, the lights come on to reveal dozens of dead crew members floating in zero gravity above them in the cargo bay. As the gravity generators power back on, the corpses fall to the floor, crushing Tyler and damaging his helmet. With systems still reactivating, the station hasn't finished repressurizing and the oxygen levels are low, and we have a little scare where Tyler starts to suffocate until the oxygen levels are correct. Looking at the early draft again, there's an interesting moment with the alien following Kay, or Kumiko's, abduction. After Andy, Rain and Tyler take the elevator to the Remus lab, the alien jumps on top of the elevator and Andy purposefully disables the lift and seals the door shut to prevent the alien getting through. This scene was ultimately redundant as it served as a way to prevent the characters from taking the lift back to the Corbellon, but we still have the later scene with the alien outside the lab doors, stalking our characters and forcing them through the conveyor belt. In both the Alien Renaissance and Blue Revision drafts, Tyler rocks an iconic M41A pulse rifle alongside Rain's F44AA, where the rifle was described as something more akin to the smart gun with an armature that the rifle itself connected to. He grabs two parts of a small rifle labelled F44AA. He wraps a harness around Rain's shoulder with a 1-inch arm sticking out. He hooks the rifle to the short arm. Concept artist Matt Savage shared a number of designs for this iteration of the F44AA. Ultimately, the armature became a moving stock, as featured in the film's final fantastic design by Andrew Bradbury. Though the zero-gravity scene in the hive remains one of the standout moments and visuals from the finished Alien Romulus, the Renaissance draft has a slightly different take on that fantastic scene. Instead of floating through the hallway, Rain and Andy turn the conveyor belt on and ride that through the floating xenomorph corpses and clouds of acid. When an alien surprises the duo as they're trying to get to the cargo lift, its obliterated corpse leaves a cloud of acid blood in the path of the conveyor belt. Instead of using the recoil from her remaining ammunition to adjust her trajectory, Andy uses his own body to shield his sister from the deadly molecular acid blood. Keeping her grip on the railing, Rain moves around to see the damage to his back. Some of the skin is gone, and for the first time we can see some of the mechanisms inside Andy's body. It's bad, but he'll survive. And though I have a lot of love for Alien Romulus, it continues a trend in modern sequels that just doesn't sit well with me, and that is reusing dialogue from previous films. while some are redone tastefully and with some contextual sense. There's one particular line that I just can't get over. "Get away from her, you bitch." Speaking to the Alien vs Predator Galaxy podcast, Fede Alvarez told us that this moment was ad-libbed on the day, much to David Johnson's dismay. As expected, the line is completely absent from the scorched xenomorph's death in both drafts. Andy doesn't ride the injured alien to the bottom of the elevator shaft. Instead, it is crushed by the elevator itself as the gravity generator purges. The line isn't absent from the script though. In both drafts we have access to, Rain utters Ripley's iconic line to the Offspring when she finds the more significantly grown creature breastfeeding on Kay's corpse. The last significant difference between these two earlier drafts and the finished Alien Romulus comes towards the end. In both drafts, Andy is shut down on the Corbellon and not woken up when the Offspring makes itself known. Instead, after Rain has flushed the Offspring into space, her climb back into the Corbellon is proving too difficult. Using her tether to get closer to the cargo freighter, the ladder just within reach, but she's just not fast enough. As it looks like Rain's fate will soon mirror that of the Offspring's, Andy's hand emerges through the cloud of sand and grabs her own, and as the Corbellon sails off into the depths of space heading towards Yvarga, instead of fading to black and Lee Gilmore's fantastic new sirens, both the Alien Renaissance and Blue Revision drafts end with Rain and Andy having arrived safely at their intended destination. Exterior, Green Valley. We slowly fly over a majestic green valley to find a large mud trench in the ground that leads to the Corbellon, partially sunk in the grass, but still in good shape. We continue to fly over the ship, slowing down to finally see, a few yards from the wreckage, Rain seated atop the greenest hill you'll ever see, contemplating a sunrise, but it looks even better than her dream, because she's not alone. Her brother Andy sits next to her. Talking to Alien vs Predator Galaxy for an upcoming project, Alien performer Trevor Newland told us that while shooting, this ending was still intended to be used. The original intent had been to film these scenes outside of Hungary, but when it came to shooting the scenes, it was actually the last thing to be filmed and was shot on location outside of Origo Studio where Alien Romulus was filmed with just Kaylee Spaney. This footage was ultimately used to depict Rain's dreams of Yvarga. And though the structure of the film remained consistent from the early Alien Renaissance draft through to the finished Alien Romulus, there were a number of other differences along the way. These were just the ones I found the most significant or interesting. Both drafts of Alien Romulus can now be found in our download section on the website, alongside many drafts of the other Alien and Predator films for your movie archaeology enjoyment.